Today I fucked up by sending fan mail to Marvel Comics. So this happened in the mid-90s. Spider-Man was knee-deep in the middle of the Clone Saga, one of the most controversial story arcs in comic history. As a 12-year-old kid, I loved it. And after reading the latest issue, I decided to send a letter to Marvel. Email was not as widespread back then, so I printed out my letter and my mom took me to the post office to send it. A few months pass and I'm reading the latest issue of Spider-Man. I turn to the letters page and what do I see but my letter, complete with my full name printed on the back page of the comic book. They printed it. I told my mom. My dad was in the room and he asked what was going on. Now, I love my boomer dad very much. He's an immigrant who isn't fluent in English and this was where the confusion started. I told him how I sent a letter to Marvel a few months ago and that they printed it in the latest issue. Now, something was obviously lost in translation because my dad thought that I, at the age of 12, had written and illustrated a Spider-Man story, sent it to Marvel and got published. He asked me several times, while looking through the comic book, "You did this? You really did this?" I said, "Yes," excitedly, not knowing that he was referring to the story and not my letter. My name's right there at the back, see. I was referring to my letter. But at that point my dad took it to mean that I was credited by Marvel for my work. My dad was so proud. A few days later I noticed that my comic book was missing. Turns out that my dad took the comic with him and was bragging about me at work. My son made a comic book, he wrote and drew everything. I was clueless of all this but there were a few red flags that I should have picked up on. For one, my dad held on that comic book like glue. He would look through the pages at night. I would also get complimented by people at his work, "There's our little Picasso," and so on. Then one night, my dad asked me if I had sent anything else to Marvel. Thinking that he meant fan mail, I said no, I haven't sent anything since the last one. He told me that I should make another one. He starts talking to me about my talent, if I want to go to art school, if Marvel paid me, etc. It was at this point that I realized what actually happened and how bad it had gotten. My dad honestly believed that I had written and illustrated an actual Marvel comic. I have done a few sketches but nothing close to professional work. At that moment, I did not know what to say. He seemed so proud, that I was afraid he would be disappointed if I told him. "They did pay you, right?" he asked. "What? They paid you, for the story?" "No." "What? They're ripping you off? This is professional level work." "Is it because you're too young?" "Dad, I didn't write that story." "But you told me a few months ago that they printed it. Your name's right here." I then explained to him that comic books have letter pages at the back of the issue. Fans send letters and Marvel prints them there. I sent a letter months ago and they printed it. That's why my name was at the back of the book. My father scratched his head, and from his face, I could tell that he was going through a "today I fucked up" of his own. He picked up the comic, flipped to the back and, with his limited knowledge of English, read my letter for the first time. He then starts laughing to himself, in a "wow, I really fucked up" kind of way. Tell him I'm sorry and he tells me no, it's his fault. We still laugh about it to this day, and it's an amusing story to tell over dinner. My dad still kept the comic book with him though. Edit, I won't tell what issue it was as my real name and address were printed along with the letter. Also, don't freak out over their printing my name and address. Personal data security and doxing just weren't things back in the 90s. There was no social media back then and email was just becoming widespread. It just wasn't a big deal at the time. Too long didn't read. Today I fucked up by sending fan mail to Marvel Comics and getting it printed. My dad reads it and thinks that I wrote and illustrated the story, and ends up bragging about it to his friends and co-workers. Thank you for a genuine laugh. What was your letter about? Just telling them how much I liked the story. Don't want to give too much detail since my name and address was printed. Your dad is amazing believing you did that and wanting to support your future. My dad told me that the idea about art school and getting paid came to him from a friend. He didn't know at first that you could get paid writing and drawing comics. It's good to know how proud and supportive your dad was to you. Thank you. We do have our issues but that's normal, I think. Man, your only recourse now is to write and illustrate a comic book and get it published. Good luck. That's a wholesome "today I fucked up." Today I fucked up by accidentally upskirting my colleague. I work in an office that's recently had a new printer installed. It's one of those big MFD things that scans, photocopies and prints on A4, A3 and all sorts of types of paper. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to like the cheap copier paper the company buys. If you print any more than about 5 to 6 pages at once, it jams up and tells you call service agent. If you turn it off at the wall, remove all the jammed paper, then turn it back on again, it will usually just check itself and then continue to work normally. Not today though. There must be a bit of paper stuck in a place that we can't see or get to, as it just keeps asking for us to call a service agent. This is where I fucked up. My colleague is wearing a fairly short skirt, about halfway down to the knee, with pattern tights. She's looking around while we decide that it definitely needs an engineer to visit. I spy a sticker about halfway down on the unit with all the details we need, the number to call, the 16-digit reference number and the 16-digit serial number, as well as the machine type etc. Rather than scroll all that down onto a post-it, I decide to whip out my phone and take a picture of the sticker. Just as I do, my colleague, who has her back to me, leans down to get into the bottommost paper tray. My phone gets caught under her skirt as I press the shutter button. I say whoa. She turns her head to see me with my hand up her skirt, and the flash from my camera goes off. My protest of "oh my god, no" sounds more like I'm upset she caught me than trying to explain it's a genuine mistake. "What the heck?" she asked, with good reason. As I am trying to explain, our boss comes out of his office, which the printer is situated just outside of, and tries to work out what's happening. I figure the best thing to do is to take the picture I was trying to, then show them both that the flash picture was just blurry and delete it in front of them. They say they both understand what was happening, but I'm still mortified. This happened about half an hour ago, and so far I've had 4 different news articles forwarded to me regarding people who have been convicted of upskirting, 1 regarding the actual legislation, and 1 to a link for a selfie stick with the suggestion I wouldn't need to actually put my hand up anyone's skirt to get a picture if I bought that. TL, doctor, don't try and take pictures of stuff without warning colleagues in the vicinity first. Just wait till one of you actually gets stuck in the printer. That's when the real fun begins. What you doing, coworker? If feel for you up. I worked in a casino and the area inside the pits can get crowded at shift change. I went to grab my bag from the podium and ended up grabbing a full handful of man meat instead. Best advice is just drop it and never mention it again. Change the stock size in the paper tray. It's in the settings. Likely the printer thinks there is a thicker stock of paper than there really is, which is causing the jam when multiple pages are pulled. Good example of this is the first sheet never jams but multiples will. I can tell you why if you really want to, but likely this is the issue. This person prints. Once in 10th grade art class I shared a high top table with 3 other students. I didn't know the girl across from me very well, but she was fairly popular and we were friends I suppose. One day my pencil falls off the desk and I need to go under to retrieve it. On returning to my seat, she smirks and says, "Now you weren't trying to look up my skirt, were you?" Lanton? Obvious joking. I had not seen what she was wearing to class and literally had no idea she was even wearing a skirt that day. Trying to be funny, I jest in return, "Oh yeah, nice blue underwear today," I reply, thinking by choosing a less typical color than say, white, she will know I'm kidding. Guess who was apparently wearing blue underwear? Will never forget the red in her face, nor the creepy vibes the rest of the semester, which was thankfully almost over. I have no idea what response she was expecting with that comment. Sounds like your colleagues are all making fun of the situation, which is a good thing. Not for your embarrassment obviously. But if anyone thought it was a serious problem then nobody would be talking to you. Summary, they know you're a good guy. Thumbs up. Today I fucked up my husband's sexy present. Today I fucked up during the morning of my husband's birthday. Everything was going great. I asked for a nice breakfast to share the perfect morning. We had a latte, orange juice, bagels, cake and bread. But I was willing to give him another gift, my mouth, tongue, and soul in a determined and meticulous blowjob. Everything was going well. A typical ups and downs, a glimpse, a sexy face, a bulge appearing on a cheek. I can assure that my husband was enjoying the moment a lot, but, as you know, this will not be a fairy tale story. After intensive work, the time for the blowjob to reach the highest point and deliver the penis beverage came. The liquid was received by the insides of my mouth, even when most of the times I avoid it. I was keen to receive it as a birthday's present. However, something went wrong and a collapse inside my body started to invade my flesh and mind. Immediately, I exploded in vomit. A fluid that had coffee and cheesecake, and that covered the whole penis and pubic hair of my beloved. Edit, well, there are some doubts here. I'm a girl. Indeed, a girl from South America, and a girl who is a poet and a literature professor, so yes, I like weird words and cadence in a post, even when is a social media post. Why is that bad to write the word beverage? It is intended to be wired so to be different and fun to write. The thing is real, so drive yourself, manigence. The ham, the famous ham. Well, comrades, there are bagels that are filled with ham and cheese and butter. This is the most common bagel in my country and we don't call it bagel, we call it refuerzo, but I needed to find an English parallel for refuerzo. Edit, Ali bad commentary, Dale gas una cantidad importante de autismo. If you don't like it, I highly recommend you to listen to Bad Bunny, Azuna, or read Quelo. The best of the worst was a little piece of ham tangled up in the pubic hair. So cute and pure, without being digested yet. The little ham, there, in a strange place and in an awkward position, probably thinking today she really fucked up. Too long didn't read. I threw up on my husband's penis after he came from his blowjob. It was his birthday. That's a category on Pornhub. The penis beverage. Very much hated this. Is this what today I fucked up has come to? No pun intended. Once in college my BF and I were super high and I had just eaten like 2 packs of the cheddar cracker sandwiches. We decided to mess around and I'm doing my thing downtown, he's in Blissland, when all of a sudden I went a wee bit too deep and my gag reflex kicked in. Now luckily my stomach was full of just cheese and crackers so there was no liquidity mess lol, but I definitely pulled up while trying to swallow only to see a little pile land on his hip. I grabbed it and ran to the bathroom to finish my shame and the best part? He had no idea lol. He said it felt really good my swallowing on his dick, smiley face. I however carried that personal humiliation for the rest of my life. That's not cheddar, that's just a common bitch. Don't feel bad. I had a roommate once that was staving off the sexual advances of our upstairs neighbor for months and finally drunkenly hooked up with her. She puked hot dog all over his dick. So he showered and they tried again, and she puked hot dog all over his dick a second time. He was pretty traumatized, but we went back up to her place to continue the party and she was eating another hot dog. Later that night they went for round 3, and, you guessed it, she puked hot dog all over his dick a 3rd time. And that's the story of how my roommate got his dick puked on 3 times in one night.